TheCraftyGemini. I post weekly crafting, cooking, and even gardening videos right here on my YouTube channel. In this video tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to make a jellyfish scarf for kids. If you enjoyed this video, remember to click the subscribe button above so you won't miss out on any of my new video tutorials. Now let's start with the supplies that we'll need for our project so we can jump right into making our jellyfish scarf. So the supplies you'll need are going to be some fleece. This piece that I have here is going to be for the whole scarf, the body of the scarf. Then you want to get some scrap pieces, which will be for our little jellyfish embellishment that we'll do up here. Then you'll need something to measure with, a rotary cutter and the corresponding mat, or if you don't have that, you can also just use a pair of scissors for this project, some pins, matching thread, and of course your sewing machine. So the piece that you need to cut out for the body of the scarf is going to be, I have here about 5 inches by 44 inches, and this scarf is going to be for my daughter, so it's a little bit shorter than Jonathan's. My son is 3, and so this one I cut it out at the same 5 inches wide, but instead it's 48 inches long. So depending on who you're making this for, feel free to play around with both the width measurements and also the length measurements. So now let's prep the body piece so that we can create the fringe on both short ends like you see here. To do that, we are going to measure 3 inches in from this edge, and I'm going to make a mark here. Okay? And then we'll repeat that on the opposite end. Okay, now I'll take my pair of scissors and I'm going to cut up from the edge all the way up to the line that we marked across. The first one you want to do, it's about 3/8 of an inch or so, and I'm going to cut all the way up to the line. Then what you want to do is cut off there, because this is going to determine your seam allowance. Once we sew this over and we're going to hem this down, we want this folded part here of where we're turning this in to be flush with this edge so that we get a nice and even scarf all the way across the edge. You see, like this, it's folded right where that first fringe starts. Okay? So after we cut that first one, you're going to cut out one like that on both ends. Okay? So you want to start off with something like that. Then you're going to go back and cut little fringes here. Don't cut them too thin. Just cut them about at least 1/4 of an inch wide. And again, we're just cutting right up to that line. And you're going to repeat the same process on the other side as well. Now that we finished fringing both ends, I'm going to use the side that has the line that I marked across as the back side of my scarf. We're going to fold in right to where it meets up with the first fringe. And then you're just going to pin all the way across the full length of the scarf, repeating this all the way up, and you're going to do it to the other side as well. Once your scarf is all pinned up, you're ready to head to the sewing machine, and technically if you didn't want to do this little hem here on the side, you don't have to because the fabric doesn't fray, but I like the way that this little finished edge looks a little bit better than having it just raw. Now I'm going to sew this down, and I like to do it from this side so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to select a zigzag stitch on my machine just because I like that look, but if you want to go with a straight stitch, you can do that as well. When I get to the end here, I'm going to back stitch just to secure that in place. Now that we've hemmed both long sides, what we need to do now is give a little bit more body to these little fringes here that we have. And you see how I just lays flat? What I'm going to do is zigzag stitch down each one. And this is going to take a few minutes, but what I do is to pull it, okay? Because I've cut my fabric this way, that the stretch, because fleece will stretch. There's one side of it that doesn't stretch much, and then the other side does stretch a bit. I've cut my fabric so that the stretch is going along the length of my scarf. And the reason for that is that I'm going to pull on these and I want them to stretch. Because once I zigzag stitch this down as I'm pulling it, it's going to like curl up and do a lot more funky stuff than just having the fringe laying flat like that. So I'll show you. I'm going to start here at the top. I'm going to zigzag stitch a few, back stitch to secure it in place. And then zigzag stitch all the way down as I tug on this a little bit, not too much. And then I'm going to back stitch when I get to the end as well to secure the stitches, since we're just zigzagging, on just a plain piece of the fleece. So I'm going to go with a smaller zigzag stitch, take a few, back stitch to secure it, continue stitching down, and pull it. And then the back stitch right there at the end. It makes it do something a little bit more funky, and it just gives it more texture, I think, to the finished project. And then you're just going to repeat that on every single little piece of fringe that you have on both ends. Alright, so we've done the scarf with the little fringe edges. If you want to keep it just like that, that's super cute as well. It'd be no problem, okay? Now for our little jellyfish embellishment, all we need to do is grab our scrap pieces. So I'm folding it up, grab my scissors, and I'm just eyeballing this, okay? So then I can come back here, put it on there, and see if it needs to be bigger or smaller. And you can see I have two here now since I cut them doubled up. So one will go right there, and the other right here. So I have my zigzag stitch. I'm starting off on one edge, and I'm just going to stitch here and come around so I can do it in one clean motion. I end with the needle on the outside so I can leave the needle inside, lift up my presser foot, pivot my fabric, put the presser foot back down, and then continue. So now that the body has been stitched on, you can use whatever craft items you have. Even pom-poms would look super cute there as the eyes. I just use another fleece on this one. You can use buttons, puffy paint, whatever you want to use. And this stuff does not have to be perfect. I think that adds to some of the whimsy of the project, is to have it look a little bit, you know, off and handmade. So I just put a couple pins in here to help keep that exactly where I want the little eyes for me to go sew it by machine. If you find that it's too difficult for you to stitch around it on your machine, go ahead and do it by hand, or you can even use like a glue gun. You can do whatever you want really to add these little eyes into place. And that's it. Your project is complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure you hit it with a thumbs up below and share it across the different social media sites. And if you give it a try, remember to take pictures so you can upload them to my Facebook page, because we always love to see what you're making from the Crafty Gemini tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.